you'd asked me 5 years ago what would end my marriage, I would have guessed money. Maybe illness. Maybe one of us doing something stupid. Divorce. 1 year after retirement? That would have been the last thing on my list. The part that still keeps me awake isn't that Susan left. It's realizing she probably made that decision years before she ever said it out loud. I just never heard it. My name's Mike. I'm 66 now, and I've had enough birthdays to know life almost never falls apart all at once. It's more like an old roof. One drip, then another. You get used to putting buckets underneath it, until one morning, the whole ceiling gives way. For almost 40 years, I worked maintenance at the same manufacturing plant. Same alarm, same highway, same steel-toed boots. Every morning before sunrise, I'd tell myself the same thing. Just keep going. One day, it'll all be worth it. I wasn't chasing a bigger paycheck. Wasn't trying to impress anybody. I was chasing time. Time with my wife. Time with my kids. Time I kept promising myself we'd have later. That's the dangerous word, isn't it? Later. Because later always sounds guaranteed. Until one day, it isn't. Susan and I met when I was 23. She waited tables at the little diner outside town while finishing community college. At first I went there because they made the best cheeseburger within 50 miles. After a while, I went because she always remembered my coffee. Black, no sugar. Funny what sticks with you. I couldn't tell you what movie we saw on our first date. Couldn't tell you where I proposed. But I still remember that cup of coffee sliding across the counter before I'd even opened my mouth. She'd smile. You look tired. I'd grin. Long day. Truth is, I probably gave her that same answer for 38 years. We built a good life, not a fleshy one. The mortgage got paid, kids graduated, nobody went hungry. If something broke around the house, I fixed it. If bills showed up, I paid them. If somebody needed me, I showed up. Or at least, I thought I did. See, my father had one definition of being a good husband. Work, provide, protect. He wasn't a man who talked much. He loved us by getting up every morning and going to work. So that's exactly what I learned. And I was good at it. Too good. If the plant needed overtime, I took it. Weekend shutdown, I was there. Christmas Eve breakdown, call Mike. More than once, I'd kiss Susan goodbye over birthday cake and say, I'll only be gone an hour. Sometimes I believed it. Most of the time, everybody was asleep before I got home. Susan never made a scene, never threw a plate, never told me to quit. She'd just say, dinner's in the oven. Back then, I took it as her being fine with things. Now, I wonder if maybe that was her giving up. Years have a funny way of speeding up. 1 minute you're teaching your son to ride a bike. Next thing, he's teaching his own little boy. My knees started hurting. The kids moved out. The house got quieter, and retirement stopped feeling scary. It started feeling earned. Susan and I talked about it constantly. Yellowstone, the Smoky Mountains, maybe Alaska if we got brave enough. A little camper, fishing with the grandkids, coffee on the porch with nowhere to be. Nothing expensive, nothing fancy, just time. The thing we'd spent 40 years trying to earn. I remember my last day at the plant. The guys bought sheet cake, signed a fishing rod, made the usual jokes. Don't let your wife work you harder than we did. I laughed, loaded everything into my truck, drove home. Susan was standing on the porch, waiting. She hugged me harder than she had in years. Then she whispered, "We made it." I honestly thought I'd never hear anything that good again. And for a while, maybe they were. The first few months felt like we'd finally crossed the finish line. I'd wake up before sunrise anyway. Old habits. I'd make coffee before Susan got out of bed. We'd sit on the porch together while the neighborhood slowly woke up. Some mornings we wouldn't say much. We didn't have to. After decades of rushing, silence felt peaceful. We started taking drives for no reason, stopped at little diners we'd never noticed before, walked around antique stores without buying anything. One afternoon, we spent almost an hour arguing over which pie was better at a roadside bakery, apple or peach. Looking back, I think those might have been the happiest afternoons we'd had in years. Funny thing is, I don't think Susan felt the same way. I just didn't know it yet. Things changed so slow I almost didn't notice. Susan started volunteering at the library, twice a week, then 3 days. She joined a book club, started taking watercolor classes, made new friends. I thought it was wonderful. After all those years raising kids while I was at work, she deserved something that belonged just to her. Or at least, that's what I told myself. One Thursday morning I asked, "You want to drive over to the lake?" She smiled. Maybe another day. Didn't think much of it. A few days later, I asked if she wanted to watch our grandson's baseball game. I promised Carol I'd help at the library. Again, no big deal. Except after that, every invitation seemed to have another answer, another plan, another reason. Nothing dramatic, nothing you could point at and say, "See, that's the problem." It's strange how distance works. When someone walks away slowly, you don't notice them getting farther. You just keep taking one step after another, assuming they're still standing where they've always been. I figured she was adjusting to retirement differently than I was. For almost 40 years, she'd built her own routine while I was gone all day. Now, suddenly, I was always there. Maybe she just needed room to breathe. It sounded reasonable, so I didn't ask questions. I wish I had. One evening, we were eating meatloaf, mashed potatoes, local news mumbling from the living room. Susan hardly touched her dinner. I remember thinking she probably wasn't hungry. Then she quietly laid her fork on the plate. Not hard, not dramatically, just set it down. She looked at me for a long time, long enough that I finally looked up. "Mike." There was something in her voice I'd never heard before. Not anger, not sadness, more like someone who'd rehearsed the same conversation 100 times alone. "We need to talk." I smiled, tried to lighten the mood. That usually doesn't end well. She didn't smile back. The room suddenly felt smaller. My mind went everywhere except where it needed to go. Doctor, cancer, money, one of the kids, anything. Anything but what she actually said. She took a slow breath. "I don't think I want to be married anymore." I honestly thought I'd misheard her. "What?" She looked at her hands, then back at me. "I think I want a divorce." The first thing out of my mouth wasn't why. It wasn't please don't. It wasn't even what happened. It was something I'll never forget asking. "Is there somebody else?" She looked surprised, then gently shook her head. "No." I actually felt myself exhale. For maybe 2 seconds, I was relieved. Then she quietly said something I'll probably carry with me for the rest of my life. "I almost wish there was." I just stared at her. She kept looking at the table. That would have been easier to explain. And in that moment, I realized whatever had happened to our marriage was going to hurt a whole lot more than I was prepared for. I didn't sleep that night, not really. Every time I closed my eyes, my brain started bargaining. Maybe she doesn't mean divorce. Maybe she's overwhelmed. Maybe tomorrow she'll tell me she just needed to scare me. By sunrise, I'd talked myself into believing there had to be another explanation. There had to be. The next morning, I found Susan in the backyard. She was pulling weeds around the flower beds. Same old gardening gloves, same faded straw hat she'd worn every spring for years. Like nothing had happened. Like she hadn't just split our life in half the night before. I walked over. "We need to talk." She nodded. "I know." I sat down on the patio chair. For a minute, neither of us said anything. Finally, I asked, "What happened?" She kept looking at the flowers, then quietly said, "Nothing happened yesterday." I frowned. "What do you mean?" She looked at me. "I mean, this didn't start yesterday. It started years ago." I felt myself getting frustrated. "Then why didn't you tell me?" A sad little smile crossed her face. "I did." "No, Susan. If you'd told me you wanted a divorce, I'd remember." She slowly shook her head. "I never said divorce. I said I was lonely." That sentence landed harder than the word divorce ever had, because all at once, I remembered. Not one conversation. Dozens. "I miss eating dinner with you. I wish you'd take one weekend off. The kids keep asking where you are. It feels like you're never really home." Back then, every conversation ended exactly the same way. "I'll slow down after this project. Just a couple more years. We need the overtime. I'm doing this for us." I believed every one of those answers. She probably did too. At first. Susan brushed the dirt off her hands. Then she looked straight at me. "You always answered my feelings with a plan." I stared at her. "What does that mean?" "It means every time I told you I missed you, you explained why you were working." She paused. "I wasn't asking why. I was asking you to notice." The wind moved through the trees. Somewhere down the block, a lawnmower started. Ordinary sounds, ordinary morning. Nothing about the neighborhood looked different. Mine never would again. "I thought I was doing the right thing," I finally said. "I know." She didn't say it with anger. She said it with kindness. "I know you did." That hurt even more. If she'd blamed me, if she'd accused me of having another family, of drinking, of gambling, I'd have known how to defend myself. But she wasn't saying I was a bad man. She was saying she'd spent years waiting for a husband who was physically home and emotionally somewhere else. A week passed. We spoke only when we had to. Not because we hated each other, because neither one of us knew what to say anymore. One afternoon, I started cleaning out the hall closet, mostly because I couldn't stand sitting still. There was an old cardboard box on the top shelf, photo albums, Christmas ornaments, drawings the kids made in elementary school. Underneath everything, a plain white envelope. No stamp, just one word written across the front. Mike. Susan's handwriting. I'd never seen it before. The date in the corner stopped me cold. 15 years earlier. The first line said, "I don't know if I'll ever have the courage to give you this." My stomach tightened before I'd finished the paragraph. It wasn't an angry letter. That would have been easier. It was hopeful. She wrote about eating dinner alone, about falling asleep on the couch while waiting for my truck to pull into the driveway, about hearing the garage door after midnight and pretending to stay asleep because she knew I'd be exhausted. Then I got to one line. I must have read it 10 times. "I miss you, even when you're sitting in the next room." I folded the letter, walked out into the garage, sat on an old wooden stool beside my toolbox. Didn't fix a thing, didn't organize anything. Just sat there for 20 minutes, listening to the quiet. Because for the first time, I understood something I'd never understood before. She hadn't been asking me to quit my job. She'd been asking me to come home. Those aren't the same thing. I kept that letter in my shirt pocket for 3 days. Never told Susan I'd find it. Didn't know how. That Saturday, our daughter Emily stopped by. She already knew. Mothers and daughters usually do. We sat on the porch drinking coffee. Finally, I asked, "Did your mum tell you?" She nodded. "Most of it." I looked out across the backyard. I don't understand how I missed all this. Emily was quiet. Then she said, "Dad, you didn't miss it." "What do you mean?" "You just thought it meant something different." I looked at her. She smiled sadly. "You know what I remember most from when I was little?" "What?" "Waiting." I frowned. "Waiting for what?" "For you." That was all she said at first. Then she looked toward the driveway. "I'd sit by the front window. Mum would tell us you'd be home soon. Sometimes we'd wait. Sometimes we'd eat without you. Sometimes she'd leave your dinner in the oven." I could see it like it had happened yesterday. The little kitchen, the clock above the stove, my empty chair. Emily looked back at me. "You know what Mum always said?" "What?" "Maybe next weekend." She smiled. That became the answer to everything. Maybe next weekend. Maybe after the shutdown. Maybe after the promotion. Maybe after the holidays. Maybe after retirement. I looked down at my coffee. Emily quietly said, "I honestly thought retirement was going to fix everything." I laughed once, only it didn't sound like laughter. So did I. She stood to leave, then stopped. "There is one thing you should know." I looked up. "Mum never stopped loving you." I blinked. Then why leave? Emily thought about it before answering. Because loving someone and feeling alone aren't the same thing. After she drove away, I stayed on the porch until the coffee went cold. For the first time in my adult life, I wasn't wondering whether Susan was right or whether I was. I was wondering something far more uncomfortable. Who was I without my job? For 40 years, I'd measured myself in overtime hours, paychecks, broken machines fixed before sunrise, people counting on me. Now there wasn't a time card to punch, no emergency phone calls, nobody asking me to solve anything. The following Monday, I woke up at 5:15, exactly like I'd done for decades. I shaved, pulled on my work jeans, laced up my old steel-toed boots, walked out into the garage, reached for my truck keys. Then I stopped. There was nowhere to go. I stood there for a long time with those keys in my hand. Then I slowly unlaced my boots, carried them back inside, set them in the closet, and for the first time since I was 23 years old, I realized I had absolutely no idea who Mike was without a job. Maybe Susan had figured that out long before I did. Maybe that's why retirement didn't save our marriage. It didn't change us. It simply took away the one thing we'd both been hiding behind. Work, for me, hope, for her. And once those disappeared, all that was left was the truth.